Hi guys, Tracy here with another episode of Scrapchat. This is a very special International Scrapbooking Weekend edition of Scrapchat, although I'm not entirely sure that it's going to get posted in time. Well, we'll see. I'm hoping it'll be posted by the end of Sunday. So happy Mother's Day to anybody out there who's celebrating Mother's Day. And I wanted to thank everybody who participated in our International Scrapbooking Day crop yesterday. And the challenges are open until Wednesday, so if you weren't able to participate at all yesterday or as much as you'd like yesterday, please be sure to check out our Facebook group. The information will be in the box below. And check that out, and we've got lots of great challenges and great prizes are up for grabs, and the challenges close on Wednesday, except the flash challenge closes actually later on today. So I have a number of questions from you guys, and most of the questions that I'm going to be answering today all came from that crop that we were having yesterday. So I'm going to start with I'm actually not going to start at the beginning. I'm going to start with Sarah. Sarah asked me about scrap guilt. She asked me, do I ever feel guilty about scrapbooking, either the money I spend or the time I spend, and how do you handle that? And I wanted to start with that one because it's a really good question that a lot of us have to deal with, because it's hard to juggle all of our responsibilities with a lot of us have families and work and friends and sometimes other hobbies that you have to juggle with, and there's lots to do. There's always lots of demands on your time. So I wanted to just share, I guess, my philosophy. I've talked about this before. You have to fill up your cup first. So I have a cup here, it's not full. What happens if I try to take care of other people or give to other people when my cup isn't full is that my cup depletes and depletes and depletes. The more I give to other people, the less coffee I have left in my cup. However, if I fill up my own cup by taking good care of myself, I'll get to the point where my cup is actually overflowing. The overflow is what I give to other people. If I'm giving to other people when my own cup isn't full, it might seem like I'm helping them, but it's not sustainable, because over time this is going to be depleted, and eventually both myself and other people will have nothing. So what I need to do is fill my own cup first, and then take care of other people. The way that you fill your own cup is by taking good care of yourself. So self-care is not selfish. What you need to do is make sure that you're getting enough sleep, make sure you're getting enough exercise, make sure you're getting good nutrition, and make sure that you have balance. And balance is the one that, for me, is always the hardest. I mean, you know, the other three are hard too, especially the exercise one, but the balance tends to be really tricky, because what I mean by balance is a balance between work and play. So you have to be doing enough work to feel like you're productive and getting everything done that you need to do, so that you're not stressed out because the laundry isn't done and your kids aren't fed and all those sorts of things. But you also need to have some fun in your life. And for us crafters, this scrapbooking stuff, this is our fun. So finding the balance is really important, and the balance will be different for every... Do you see my ring? My daughter gave me that for Mother's Day. It's a little distracting, isn't it? So by scrapbooking and having fun in other ways, that's part of how I fill my cup. It's not the only way that I fill my cup, but it's part of how I fill my cup. And notice that taking care of your family, if that's one of your responsibilities, would also be part of filling your cup. So I think that if you think about your own needs as being just as important as other people's needs in terms of making sure that you have a chance to do the things that you need to do, then it's a lot easier to scrapbook without scrap guilt. So I think it all does come down to balance, and it's important that if you have arranged your life so that you're getting all the sleep, exercise, nutrition that you need, and you're trying to find that balance between work and leisure, then it's important that you give yourself permission to fully enjoy the leisure time, because that is part of filling your cup. Once your cup is filled, then the rest of that overflow goes towards taking care of other people, like going above and beyond your basic responsibilities. So helping out, either giving to your family, or like giving, kind of spending extra time with your family or with your loved ones, or giving back to your community, or putting in extra time at work to get that promotion, or whatever the case might be. You will only have the energy to do that in a sustainable way if you've taken care of yourself and filled your own cup first. And scrapbooking is part of filling your own cup. It's one of many parts. It's not the only thing. You can't fill your whole cup with scrapbooking as much as we might like to. There has to be all those other things in there as well. But so I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're mindful and able to find the balance that you need, then it becomes a mindset. You have to think about scrapbooking as important as something like exercise or nutrition. It might be a smaller part of your day, but it is just as important. So that's my thought in a nutshell. I don't want to make this whole episode about that, so that's just some of my thoughts about that. I could talk about that kind of thing for a long time, so but that's all I'll say for now. So something that I forgot to say when I originally recorded this is that you are a better parent, worker, citizen, caregiver, sibling, friend, son or daughter, and all the other things you are. You're better at those roles when you've taken good care of yourself. And so if you love scrapbooking, that is part of taking good care of yourself. So it's important that you don't allow yourself to think those thoughts that make you feel guilty about scrapbooking. Work it into your life. Figure out how to set aside time and prioritize it so that none of the other forms of self-care and none of your other obligations are being neglected because of it. And then just go ahead and enjoy it because you deserve it. I have another question from Stephanie, and Stephanie wants her shine back. So I'm going to try to find a Heidi Swapp color shine that I haven't used for a while and show you what I mean. So when you get a bottle of Heidi Swapp color shine, this is the beautiful mint color shine. It has liquid in the top, and you can see that there is some powdery substance in the bottom. The powdery substance is the shiny stuff. So there are little, I don't know if it's mica or what it is, but there's little pigments that have sparkle in them. So when I shake this, I want you to listen. I'm going to put it by my microphone so that you can hear. See how it doesn't make any sound other than the liquid sloshing around? That's because I'm not shaking it hard enough. What I need to do is shake it really hard. And the more you shake it, the ball will release inside of it. And just shake it, shake it, shake it. You really need to shake this stuff harder than you think you do and for longer than you think you do. And give it a really, really, really good shake. And part of the way that you know that it's completely shaken up is if you turn it upside down, and if you can see little residue of the sparkly substance down there, it's not shaken enough. Right here you can see bubbles, but there's no residue, so that tells me that it is shaken enough. Sometimes you'll get a Heidi Swapp that you shake and shake and shake, and I don't know if any of mine are going to do that because I've traveled, but you shake it and shake it and shake it, and the ball doesn't seem like it's releasing. Just keep on shaking it and it will release. So this might be one, because this one has a lot of powder. Look, all you can see is powder in the bottom. So yeah, that one released pretty easily. I've been traveling with mine, so most of mine, the ball is pretty released, but if you leave it on your desk for too long, it'll all settle down and that ball gets buried in the powder. And then when you shake it, it doesn't want to move around because it's buried in that powder. But the more you shake it, the more the powder moves around, and eventually that little ball will be released, and then you'll be good to go. So thanks for that question, Stephanie. I had some questions about where to shop in Canada, and I don't have a great recommendation for you. People were asking about where to shop in Canada that will have good shipping. And so part of the problem is that I'm not a great shopper. I have to admit, I kind of suck at shopping. I am very impulsive. So first of all, I don't shop all that often. I really only shop from about February to June. It sounds like a lot. I don't shop constantly during that time, but I tend to not buy anything at all the whole rest of the year because I'm on a design team and I get kits coming in all the time, so I don't really need to shop. But usually there's new stuff coming out around January with CHA, and so I usually get excited around February and start buying a few things. I'm not a great shopper. I'm fairly impulsive, and so I see something and I want it and I just buy it. And I don't always, I mean, I try to shop around in the moment, but the kinds of things that I'm looking for usually are hard to find, and so you just kind of take them wherever you can get them, type of thing. And so sometimes I'm not as thoughtful about how much I'm spending on shipping, unfortunately. And I kind of rationalize it by saying, well, I don't spend all that much money most of the year. And so, if I spend $100 or something in February, then, that's not so bad because I didn't spend it all in December and January and November and October. And so I feel like it's okay. So I'm not the best person to ask for advice about shopping, but there has been a discussion on my Facebook group about that. So I have some screenshots of what people said. So there were a couple of shops that came up. We did talk about this on the Facebook group, so I'm going to list off some places that some of the members of our Facebook group suggest. So one shop that comes up as highly recommended is the Pink Camera, and another one is W Squared Scrapbooking, Prairie Paper Haven, and Scrapbook Generation, and Scrapendipity. Those are all stores that people on the Facebook group have recommended. And then if you're looking for a kit club that's Canadian, the Mimosa Embellishment Kits, which you can buy online, is another great option. So I personally tend to shop at Freckled Fawn because I like their Oh Dear Me kits, and so I buy about maybe 4 or 5 of those a year. So that's one place that I hit up pretty often. I've been buying at Paper Issues recently, and I love the service. And the shipping is a little bit hot. So the shipping at Freckled Fawn, I pay $14 for shipping on a $53 order. So that's not the greatest shipping. So for Paper Issues, the shipping was also a little high. It was $15, but there's always a coupon code that you can use, and so it offsets the cost of shipping. And I really like the service there. And the packages come all packaged in cute little wrappings, and it's really nice. I really love Paper Issues, actually. It's my new favorite store. Scrapbook.com has really, really expensive shipping, and I tend to get hit with customs when I order from Scrapbook.com. But if I really, really can't find something anywhere else, I have ordered from Scrapbook.com. Yeah, Simon Says Stamp always has reasonable shipping. I mean, it costs a lot to ship to Canada. If you buy just dies, you'll get less shipping than if you buy, anything that you buy that's 12 by 12 is going to come in a certain size box. That's just going to be a lot. You'll pay, basically, I expect if I buy anything that's 12 by 12, I expect to pay $15 for shipping, and that's just the way that it is. But if you buy smaller things, then sometimes you can get shipping as low as $7 or $8. So that's just my shopping experience. I'm really not the best person to ask for shopping advice because I'm not a savvy shopper at all. I pay for my ignorance. So I got a lot of questions about mixed media, and I really think that I'm going to have to do a focus on scrapbooking video just about mixed media in order to answer everybody's questions and to spend enough time on it. So I got a question, for example, from Jennifer, who wants to know what my favorite types of mixed media are. My favorite mixed media by far right now is anything watercolor. So I am loving the Ken Oliver color burst powders, which really surprises me. I didn't think I'd like them as much as I do. So I have so much to say about this that I really feel like I should make a separate mixed media video. I'm no expert on mixed media, which is part of why I've been hesitant to make a mixed media video, but so many people want to know what my opinion is, that I think it's worthwhile for me to just say in a separate video. So the answer to your question, Jessica, is I love watercolor. I like Tim Holtz watercolor. They're not watercolor crayons. They're called distress crayons, but they work a lot like watercolors. I like pan watercolors, although not as much as the Ken Oliver powders. And I like watercolor pencils and watercolor crayons, and I also like gelatos. So those are my favorites because, as you guys know, I tend to like really bright colors, and you can get vibrant colors with those types of media. So it was Jackie. Jackie asked me, how do I choose my photos before I scrap? And then she said, or do you? Maybe you don't. And she said that she has trouble choosing her photos. So this kind of goes back to my philosophy on scrapping, which is that this is going to be pretty controversial, I think. But my philosophy about scrapbooking is that it's really not as important as what I sometimes think it is. And I try to remind myself of that all the time. So what I mean by that is that my family is going to enjoy their life no matter whether I scrapbook it or not. And they'll have memories whether I scrapbook them or not. And I grew up and didn't have scrapbooks, and I still have lots of great memories. And so did my husband, and so do lots of my friends. And so I think sometimes when we put too much pressure on ourselves, we get caught up in the whole idea of I have to scrapbook this, I have to get it in my album. And I just don't feel that way. So I think that sometimes that makes it difficult for me to relate to some of these kinds of problems because I just pick whatever photo I recently took, to be honest. I don't really think too much about it. And so what that means is that I don't have a backlog of pictures or events to scrapbook. I just scrapbook whatever I feel like it. I tend to scrapbook every week, and I take photos every week. So when I sit down to scrapbook, I just look in my phone at my recent photos and pick one. And sometimes if I know I'm working with a kit that has certain colors, I'll be like, oh, Livy's jacket has that color, so that's a great one for me to scrapbook. And other times I'll say something like, oh, that isn't really that great of a memory, even though the jacket is the right color. So I'll scrapbook this other picture instead. And maybe if it's the wrong colors, I'll switch it to black and white, or I'll work with it anyways and try to bring in some embellishments, or I'll use the photo as a contrast so that it's okay for the photo to have different colors, or I'll scrapbook for my stash instead of using my kit for that particular photo. So I don't really spend a whole lot of time choosing photos. I just look at what I've got and pick something. And I know that might not be the most helpful advice if you feel like you have a big backlog of photos and you really do want to scrapbook them. But I guess I would encourage everybody to be easier on yourself and more flexible about how you scrapbook. It might help you enjoy the process a little bit more if, instead of thinking about all the photos you have to scrap and where do you start, if you just thought about, I want to have fun scrapbooking today, and if my family gets a memory in the form of a layout out of it, then that's a bonus. And that way you don't feel like you have to do all of these certain layouts and capture all of these certain memories. For example, my daughter was just in a play, and I hardly took any pictures of the play. I know she's going to remember that play. She has the poster. Her brain remembers things, and she has all of the script and all of those things to remember the play. I took a couple of photos, but I didn't take 10,000 photos, even though she did have a really big part. And I did get to, it wasn't like a starring role or anything, but it was a big, important part. And I just felt like I wanted to enjoy living through that experience with her, instead of being preoccupied with getting the right angle and getting the right background and making sure that she's smiling and interrupting her with her friends in order to get her to pose for pictures. That seems it seems artificial to me and contrived. And so I thought, if I get some pictures, I'll take some, but if I don't, I don't, and it doesn't really matter. So this relates to another question, where Julianne, is it Julianne? Yeah, I think it's Julianne. So Julianne said, "What's my philosophy on what to scrapbook? Do I not take a lot of photos, or do I just choose one to scrap?" And I think this question comes from the observation that a lot of my layouts just are single photo layouts, or maybe two photo layouts. And I think that that speaks to what I was just saying, which is that I I want my photos to complement my family's life and not dominate my family's life. Like, the photos need to be on the side. They can't be, okay, everybody, now let's. I find that it takes like 20 minutes to get the family together for a family photo. Like, oh, I got to change my hat, and oh, I got to do this, and then the other person's gone because they got bored, and you have to get them back, and then someone else is gone. It's like a really big deal to get a whole family photo at a busy family event. And I just feel like those photos don't really mean much, because they're so contrived. Like, that's not even what we were doing that day, standing in front of the fireplace or whatever. Like that, everybody was spread all around the house, and then they all came together to take this family photo, but it doesn't actually represent anything that really even happened that day. So I am more likely to snap a picture of, like, from above, of the heads of the kids as they're like playing with something, and then I'll scrapbook that one photo, even though that might be just one event of all the things that we did that day. I don't feel like I need to say the kids did this craft, and then we went outside to play, and then we had cake, and that all that stuff happens at most birthday parties anyways. And so, yeah, maybe I'm weird for thinking about it that way, but that's just the way that my mind works. Like, I don't think about it in terms of needing to scrapbook every single thing. So if I ever use a sketch, and if I ever plan my layouts in advance, the answer to that is almost never. So sometimes I'll use a sketch. If I use a sketch, I always show it. I usually use Christine Davidson's sketches because I love them, and her blog is Creative Scrappers, and I'll leave the link in the information section below. I often don't, and it's not that I don't enjoy working from sketches. I just usually kind of forget to use a sketch. I just get started, and then that's it. So I do use sketches when I'm at a crop, or if I have a friend over. That's another good time to use a sketch. I find that if I don't have time to think about the design, like if I'm socializing or distracted or multitasking, that's a really great time for me to use a sketch, because then I can just kind of follow the sketch and still be creative in terms of how I interpret it, but it's less demanding on my brain. And I almost never plan out a layout. And if I have planned it, every once in a while I do. Every once in a while I'll have an idea at work or something, and I'll just write a couple of ideas down and do that the next time I scrapbook. And if I do, I always mention it at the very beginning. There's usually a little blurb at the beginning where I say something like, I had this idea and I wrote this down, and so I'm going to try to do this today. And so if you're not hearing something like that or seeing a sketch, then my layout was just kind of designed on the fly. And that's just how I roll. That's just how I like it. Then Laura asked me, when do I destash and what do I do with it? So, and how do I know when to destash? So I know that I need to destash when things are feeling overwhelming, and when I start to not be able to find things. That's a good sign that I need to destash. I destash when I feel overwhelmed and like I can't find things, and I'm fairly lucky in that I have a very large scrap room, so my work desk is 17 feet long. And I have recollections cubes that I've collected throughout the years. I didn't buy all this stuff all at once. What I do when I do decide to destash is I usually take it bit by bit. So I might destash my paper, for example, and anything that I think I'll never use, I get rid of. And I don't throw much away. I usually donate it to somebody, or I put it in my prize packs for my MercyTiara's 27-day challenge giveaways. So that's what I do with it. I rarely throw away things. I usually give it away. Sometimes I sell things. But I find that I don't get a huge return because I live in Canada. Who wants to buy stuff from me and pay for shipping? Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I find that the effort that it takes to sell something is just not worth it. Again, that's me not being very frugal. It kind of goes back to the shopping thing. I kind of feel like my time is more valuable than money sometimes. It kind of depends. So thanks for your question, Laura, and nice to see you at our crop. I was hoping you'd show up. Okay, so Melanie wants to know my new camera setup, and I want to show it to you guys. And I'm going to do, I have had a lot of requests, and I mentioned that I might do, and now I will do because I've had so many requests, a video about how to do process videos. So I am going to do that. I needed to get my introductory series over with, and then after that was over, I had to plan for the crop. Now the crop is over. I have 2 more things that I need to kind of get sorted out and get rolling at least before I can get started. So there's 2 things that will be coming to my channel, 2 new things for me to tell you guys about at some point, but I'm not going to tell you yet. So that's my sneak peek. I'm going to show you my camera setup quickly today. But first, I'm going to move on. I'm going to skip Melanie's question and go on to Jackie wants to know what are my 5 most used items. I didn't think about this ahead of time, so this is just off the top of my head. My 5 most used items would be, and I'm just sitting here, I keep everything at my fingertips. My ruler, you guys know I use this for tearing straight lines on my paper, and I love my ruler. I don't use it for measuring because I rarely measure anything. I've been recording all of this twice. Can you guys believe that? I'm recording in 2 different angles. Sorry, that's going to be annoying for me later. So, my ruler, 1. 2 would be my Caterpillar crop trimmer, which I did a video about. My ATG or my small type runner. I use them both interchangeably. The thing that people ask me about this ATG, why do I use such a huge one, and isn't it cumbersome? It's really not cumbersome. It works quite well. It's no better than these little runners, which I like these little runners too. These actually feel really good in my hand. I like using these, but I find that I need to change the cartridges on these so often that it becomes quite expensive. And so these it just lasts so long. That's my main reason for using the ATG. It's not that the ATG adhesive is any better than any other brand of adhesive. It's just completely for convenience sake. I have to change this maybe once every 2 months, whereas I'd be probably going through these every 2 weeks or so. So that's 3, right? 4 would be my tiny attacher, or I do have another stapler. I prefer my tiny attacher. It feels better in my hand. So that's my little stapler. And what would be my 5th? If I had to pick a 5th, I guess my outlining markers, because I outline almost everything. So this set of Faber-Castell Pitt pens, and I have them in superfine, fine, medium, and brush. I rarely use the brush. I probably didn't need to buy another brush. I already had a brush tip. And I need to have a slick surface writer too. So maybe if I said markers could be my 5th item. And what I really like about these is that they're filled with Indian ink, and they're waterproof and light fast, and they mark over almost any surface. So if you're marking on a mixed media project, it'll go over all your bumps and keep marking through it all. And they're really, really black, which I like. Some markers are black, but they're kind of like a bland black. Yeah, those are nice and crisp. Advice on applying to a design team. What do I have to say about that? So again, this is all off the top of my head. I haven't prepared any answers for any of these, so we'll see what I have to say about this. I don't know that I'm the best person to ask for advice about applying to a design team because I don't exactly know how to get on a design team. So the design teams that I'm on right now, I have been invited to be a part of. And so and I think that that really is the best way to get on a design team, is to do what you do, be true to yourself and your own style. So I have my own style. I know that my work doesn't look the same as a lot of people who are on design teams and in the magazines and stuff, but it's my scrapbook, and I just kind of do what I want to do, and people who want to look at it can look at it, type of thing. Um, and I think that being true to yourself like that is really, really important, especially if you're doing this as a hobby. But also if you're doing it, trying to, make some money at it or be on some design teams. I think it's still important that you are true to yourself, because if you find yourself on a design team and having to work with products that just aren't your style, or feeling like you need to create a certain look for a certain paper line because that's the look that that company looks for, then you're really going to very quickly come to not enjoy scrapbooking. And this is part of what we do for fun, so it should be enjoyable. So I think you have to be really careful about trying to be who you think the companies want, and just be yourself. I think that's probably the best advice that I can give you for applying to a design team, is just be yourself. And if you are yourself, and if enough people like what you do, you might be invited to be on a design team without applying. Um, but I have applied, so I've applied to design teams in the past, and I didn't really put a whole lot of stock into it. Like I wanted to be on the team, or I wouldn't have applied, but I just gave them some projects that I would have done anyways. So I didn't, for example, say, oh, I'm applying to this design team, so I better do my best work. I kind of always try to just do my best work, or I just do work that's true to myself, that's my own style. And then I submitted that, and if they liked it and they wanted more of that, then I could easily deliver that, because what I gave them was a reflection of me. And so then if they gave me the job, I just had to be myself, keep on doing more of what I was doing anyways, and they would hopefully be happy. I hope they were happy with what I was doing. So I guess be true to yourself really is the best advice that I can give you. There's probably other advice, like things like, have a blog and post regularly, and, be on social media and those sorts of things. I'm not as good at giving that kind of advice, because I'm not focused on all of those sorts of things. Those are just extras for me. I do them if I can, but I don't really, pay a whole lot of attention to that kind of stuff. So there might be some other people or places that you can go for better advice on that kind of stuff. But I think those things are important too if you really want to get on some teams, but I just can't give you help in that area. So thanks for your question, Jackie. You asked a lot of questions today. That's awesome. So then we've got Tisha, who says, what keeps you interested in scrapping, and do you ever have a lull in your scrapbooking? And I think that what I was just talking about is exactly why I keep interested in scrapbooking. It's because I do it the way that I want to do it, and so it never feels forced or contrived, because I just do what I want to do. I have had a few lulls, and I do have another hobby. I kind of feel like storytelling is my hobby. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but I really do feel that way. I think that my nonfiction stories are told in scrapbooking, and then my fictional stories are told in my other hobbies. I do sort of like a photography with, like, I do doll photography and doll customization, and I'm really kind of in and out of that hub. I'm not in that one entirely. I kind of just fill it in the gaps between my scrapbooking, but scrapbooking really is my main hobby. I think the other thing that keeps me into scrapbooking is really you guys. So one thing that I've found is that whenever scrapbooking seems stale to me, well, it never really does seem stale because you guys are always challenging me. Like you give me these questions like, can you talk more about mixed media? And I've been getting these questions for a while, and I thought, oh, I can't talk about mixed media because I don't really do that anymore, and I'm not the best person to talk about it. And I just kept on getting the questions again and again and again. And I thought, oh, I should probably do some mixed media so that I can have something to say to people. And then I did it, and I was like, wow, I love this. And so it's really nice that you guys push me in this way because I forgot how much I loved mixed media and watercolor and those sorts of things until you guys were asking me these questions. And I was like, oh, I guess I better answer them. So, and just, I'll get feedback on my layouts, and you guys will say, oh, I did a layout like that, but I did it this way instead. And I think, oh, wow, that's a really great idea. And so someday down the line, when I'm doing something, that idea will probably become something that I think is important to try, and I might try it at some point, or I might just go and try it right away. It's hard because I don't always write down what people are suggesting what, and so I might try it and say, somebody said this at some point, but I can't always credit people for their ideas because I'm just not that kind of a thinker. I just kind of put it all in there, and sometimes some stuff will come out. I don't know where it came from. But thank you, because you guys really do keep me inspired and keep me doing this and feeling like I love this. So thank you. Yeah, so that's what keeps me interested in scrapbooking. Thanks for your question, Tish. Oh, Joan asks a tough question. Okay, so thank you for your question, Joan. Joan asks me, how do I feel about being scrappy famous? Did you ever think you'd get such a following when you started? And do you get recognized when you're out and about? So this question embarrasses me a little bit because I don't think of myself as scrappy famous, but I hear that a lot. Other people refer to me that way. Everything is relative, and I just do my thing, and I don't really think too much about the volumes of people because it kind of freaks me out if I do. So I don't really think about myself that way. But I have to say this, I'm getting more comfortable with that idea as time goes by. I'm sort of warming up. I think I'm desensitizing to it. So at first it felt really uncomfortable to think about myself that way. But over time, I think you guys make it easier because you're so nice and it makes it easier. But I think also just time is making it easier. I did not think that I would ever get such a following because when I started, there were no big following. Like this wasn't even a thing. Like when I first started, I made my first YouTube video in 2009. There were hardly any scrapbookers on YouTube then. And I started making process videos in 2010, and there was only one person who had shared their process that I could find. And I scoured YouTube looking for more because I loved it so much. I was like, there's got to be more people doing this, but I couldn't find any more. And that's why I started doing it. And I called it, first I called it Share the Process, and then I started calling it Scrapbooking Process. And my videos are still to this day called Scrapbooking Process videos. I had no idea. I remember meeting with my friend for coffee and I was a little embarrassed about doing this YouTube thing, like, recording myself and putting it on the internet. It seemed kind of weird. And I remember feeling weird about even telling her that I was doing it. And she was interested and said, oh, well, does anybody actually watch? And I said, yeah, I've got like 35 people subscribed to my channel. It's so weird that 35 people are interested in seeing like some lady in her basement scrapbooking. And it's kind of funny actually, because now there's over 16,000 subscribers on my channel. And so, yeah, that's kind of funny actually. Yeah. I remember when I hit 100 and thinking, wow, 100, like imagine a room filled with 100 people. That's like a lot of people. And yeah, so it's awesome. I love YouTube. I love that this is one place that people of all different styles and walks of life and philosophies, we all can kind of come together and just put it out there, and people who want to see it can see it. And if you don't want to see it, you just don't have to watch, right? Like I love I love the community of YouTube. I really, really love it. Do I get recognized when I'm out and about? Only occasionally at scrapbooking related things. I don't get recognized walking down the street or anything like that. I have been recognized at Michael's a couple of times, and I've been recognized at Crop and Create. I don't go very many places, right? So yeah. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I don't really get recognized very often. Although, when I was at Crop and Create, it was funny because I was in, of course, a lot of people just recognize my hands because all that they see is the view from my camera above. And so I had somebody in the elevator recognize my voice. So they wouldn't have recognized my face, but once I talked, they were like, "Oh, you're MercyTiara." I thought that was kind of cool. Rosemary asked me about classes. Have I enrolled in any classes? So I started scrapbooking. There weren't a whole lot of classes online at that. Maybe there were, but I didn't know where they were. So it didn't even occur to me to take classes until I was a couple of years into scrapbooking. I took Chamel's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Scrapbooking, or Scrapbooker's Guide to the Galaxy. I forget. It's the Hitchhiker's Guide to Scrapbooking. That's what it's called. And I think you can, I've been told that you can still get that on her website. It's a really, really great starting point for scrapbooking. My beginner series on YouTube is also a really great starting point. But the Hitchhiker's Guide to Scrapbooking is really kind of talks about a lot of things like design principles that I had not really been thinking about until I took that class. I think I had been using some of them, but not all of them, but I didn't really know why I was doing what I was doing. And that class did a really good job for me at that point in my scrapbooking of solidifying what I already knew and just pushing me along a little bit further in my scrapbooking. Ugh, I love that class. It was really, really good. I highly recommend it, especially for someone who's kind of in this part of their learning curve, like where they're just kind of starting to say, "Oh, I get this. I'm feeling good about it." That's a great time to take the Hitchhiker's Guide to Scrapbooking. Awesome class. Lots of really great content too. If I ever do a class, I strive to do a class as good as Chamel does it because, wow, that's an awesome class. I've taken a couple of other classes since then. Some of them have been okay and some of them have not been okay. None of them I can rave about as much as I rave about that one though. So that's noteworthy. I find I in particular am not a huge fan of project-based classes, and I had to unfortunately take a bunch of them before I realized that this is just not for me. Where an instructor is going to kind of like take you through all the steps of making a project, and you can make it your own, but it's sort of theirs. Those are not good for me, but they're out there. So if you like them, they're out there. So go ahead and get them. I did write down some thoughts about this. So there are some classes that are either just like not for you, like for me, it would be those project-based classes, or they're just, you've progressed beyond where the class is. And so it's just too not engaging enough for you. Some technique classes I have found I've taken that are like that. Like I just felt like I don't really need a class for this. Like, I think I could try this on my own type of thing. And so those would be classes that are not good for you because you're just a little bit too far along your learning process for them. And then there are classes like what I just described with the Hitchhiker's Guide, where they put into words and explain a lot of what you're already doing that maybe you haven't thought about in that way. It solidifies your understanding of what you've been doing and just pushes you a little bit further along. So it's kind of like a class that consolidates and gives you confidence and excitement that, yes, I'm on track. I know what I'm doing. This is, I have a sense of direction of where to go from here. Those are really fun classes to take. They're awesome. And I've only taken one of them. The Hitchhiker's Guide is the only one I've taken that has really kind of met that need for me. And then there are classes that make you see your work in a whole new light. Like, it's not so much about consolidating and saying, yep, you're on track, keep on going, but classes that totally, like, game changers for you, where you think, wow, this is some whole new area that I haven't even thought about yet, and I can totally do this. Those classes. And I haven't taken one for scrap, but I've taken some art classes that do that for me. And then maybe I kind of incorporate some of that into my scrapbooking along the way. But those are awesome classes. And then there are the classes that are just too technical or too far along for you, and you kind of feel lost or like you're struggling. Like, for example, if I were to take a silhouette course, I would find that really horrible. I would find that I would not be able to keep up with a silhouette course. I would be lost and struggling and feeling like I'm drowning the whole time. I think you need to know where to enter the class domain and know what you're looking for in a class. And so I don't want to talk about the classes that I've taken that I haven't been so satisfied with, because I don't think any of them were poorly run or badly designed or anything like that. It's just like they weren't meeting my needs. So I don't want to talk about those. I talked about the Hitchhiker's Guide, which was awesome. And I just registered for Just Add Color. So I'm hoping that Just Add Color is going to be that third group of class that kind of makes you see a whole new world of possibilities. I'm really excited for that class. It's being offered by Big Picture Classes. It's one of their premium classes, so you have to pay extra above and beyond your membership. I do have a membership to Big Picture Classes, and I don't use it. I probably shouldn't even pay for my membership because I don't use it. It's not that it's great. I go in and have a look at what classes are there, and every once in a while I'll put one on, but I don't have enough time to consume classes. I just don't. I don't. I find that people ask me what videos I watch, and to be honest, I don't watch many because I just don't have the time, because my scrapbooking takes up more time than just the scrapbooking, because there's a whole process that takes place back there for making the video that goes with each layout. And so I can't, I don't watch regularly. I watch what I can when I can, but so I don't have time for Big Picture Classes, unfortunately. It's a great website. I like the classes, but I haven't been able to take advantage of it. So now, Melanie wants to see my new camera set up, so I am going to show it. So people have been asking about my new video setup, so I wanted to share it with you guys. This was a multi-step process that it took to get to this point. So I started off doing my process videos with my video camera right there, which is a Canon. What is it? It is oh my goodness, Vixia. It's a Canon Vixia HFR 500. Anyhow, I started with that camera on a tripod that has an arm on it, so that the tripod legs were always right here, and it extended up, and then it had an arm that went over like this, and then my camera shot down, and I would do my work right there. That worked fine for me for several years, from about 2010 until 2015. In the fall of 2015, I started realizing that I really wanted my space. I really felt like those legs had been there for so many years, and I would put stuff in between the legs and it would topple over, and I really hated having legs on my desk. So I decided to jig up a new system. The other problem that I had was that I had one single light that actually hung from the ceiling from that exact same post that now holds my camera. It used to hold a light, and it was one light. And the problem with one light is that it bounces right back up, so it reflects quite a lot, and the shadows are a little weird. It was fine, there was nothing wrong with it, but because I've been doing this for so long and making process videos is a bit of a hobby within a hobby, I wanted to tweak it and make it even better. So I decided to change to this setup. And of course, in the interim period, I had these lights, but the ceiling had to be modified. I had to have this box installed in order to hang the lights from it. So I had the lights and I had the camera installed where my light had been, but the lights were on their stand. So I actually went from having one set of legs to actually having two set of legs for a while, and that was not good. I was not very pleased with that, but I did know that it was temporary. So what my husband did was he installed this box in our ceiling, and the ceiling in this room has always been partially unfinished because we have to build a bulkhead around this, and I just wanted to get into my room pretty quickly. So the room is really not finished. It's just very basically finished, just so that I can be here in comfort. So he installed that box, and that allowed me to dangle the light stands. So he had to cut the legs off of the light stands, and that's like the telescoping long thing that's inside of the light stand. So that's the light stand that those lights came with. It's Canadian Studio lighting, and I just bought it as a kit. It came with the two lights and the light bulbs that I needed and the stands and everything. He cut the legs off of the light stands, and then he had to buy these clamps. They look like that, and I'll show you the package that they came in. They came in this package. It's called a super clamp with a 5/8 inch socket, and you don't end up needing to use this or this part of it. We had to buy two of those. And the lights just hang from the ceiling like that. People have asked me if I feel claustrophobic, but I actually don't. I know when you look at it from here, you think, wow, there's two huge dark things hanging right over where she sits. But when you're sitting down here, I'll show you my perspective. So when I'm sitting down here, I have these two huge sources of light which give off the illusion of space, and for once I have an entirely clear desk to my left and an entirely clear, except for when it's messy, desk to my right. And I really love that. So I don't really feel claustrophobic at all because I feel like I actually have a lot more elbow room than I did when I had my stand. Pardon me. Than I did when I had my stand over here to the right. I love having this space. It's like a huge luxury actually to have that space there. So not claustrophobic at all. So I told you about how the lights are installed, and then I just used zip ties and clips and hooks and stuff to kind of MacGyver up a system for the cords. And I had to run an extension cord that runs down. There's a hole in my desk right there. So the extension cord plugs in under my desk, and it runs all the way up, and there's actually under that Feel So Good box and those stuffies that are up there, there's an extension cord, like a power bar. And so those three sources, I guess there's two, I thought there were three. Yeah, those two electrical cords run down there, and they plug in right behind the Feel So Good box so that you can't really see it at all. And then this is a piece of wood that just extends down. As I said, it used to hold my one light, and now I have this is a special kind of a clamp that has a, let me see if I can show it properly. It attaches onto a camera and allows you to attach your camera to anything. And so I just have it attached to the stick of wood like that, angle it down and point it at my work surface, and then that's what you guys see on my process videos right there. The reason I use a video camera instead of my iPhone for most of my process videos, and instead of using a DSLR, is that DSLRs will only record, or most of the ones that are in my price range will only record up to half an hour at a time, And I used to record on a DSLR way back when I first started making process videos, and I would always forget to turn my camera back on when it ran out of the 20 minutes or however many minutes it had. And so I would lose most of my process because of that, because I get so engrossed in what I'm doing that I just forget. And so for me, a video camera that will record for as long as I need it to is really important. And so I use a 30, what is it? I think it's a 32 gigabyte card. And I use a card that's actually, you have to use the high-speed cards. So this is the card that I use. It's a 32 gig Extreme scan disk. And the Extreme makes it faster for processing. When you move it from your camera to your computer, it will process faster. I think that's my understanding of it anyways. So that's what I use. And I have two cards, so I just kind of go back and forth between them. You can actually tell the difference between my cards. They're both the same brand and the same specs, but one of them records everything a little bit darker than the other. So I try to use this one because it is more true to life. So that's my camera, and those are my lights. And now I have the new addition to this setup is I used to do my, bear with me, I used to do my Scrapchats and any face-to-face video recording I used to do right here with my iMac. There is a built-in FaceTime camera in that, and so I would just sit here and you guys would see my workspace here behind me with my desk and my shelving and stuff, and then I would talk into that microphone right there, and it worked really well, but I wasn't actually all that comfortable there. That desk is a little high for me, and it was hard for me to show. If I was showing a project, I would have to get up and move over here and then turn on this camera, and it was kind of a lot of back and forth, and it was difficult to multitask at that one. So that, oh, there's Nixie. So that worked okay for a while, but I really wanted something that would facilitate a smoother transition between face-to-face recording and overhead recording. So once I had my lights set up here, it actually gives a really nice spot for me to do my Scrapchats, because when I had my Scrapchats over here, I had to have an extra light that I had here and an extra light that I had there. I had to light my face with a light that shone this way. And then if I wanted to show you any close-ups and put them up by the camera, I had to have another light that was kind of just up by my monitor so that you could see the details of what I was showing you. So it was a lot of makeshift yucky looking lamps clamped onto things that they weren't supposed to be clamped onto, and balancing on top of things that looked a little precarious. So what I ended up doing once I switched my video setting here, because these lights provide such great intensity, I can sit here and put my iPhone right here and record. I'm actually recording this right now on my iPhone, so it's not there, but I'll show you what it looks like. I have some pictures of it, so I'll insert them right here in the Scrapchat. And so I just put my iPhone on this clamp, and this is, I'll show you what this is. It's by Me Photo, and it's really heavy duty. For a while, I had a clamp that was, I think it was from the dollar store. So this is definitely not dollar store material. It's really, really great quality. And you can actually put this on your tripod. So the other day when I was recording my kit video, my stash kit making video, and I was over there, that was recorded on my iPhone using this attached to my regular tripod, which I don't have to use for process videos anymore. So that's pretty awesome, and you could attach this to almost anything. I also bring this over to my sewing machine now when I have to do a sewing machine segment. So I just put it right there, and when it's right there, I can point it down or I can point it up depending on what I need. So that little iPhone stand was one of my most recent acquisitions, and then the other thing that I've added to my video setup is this microphone. It's a Shure microphone. I've already shared my Blue Yeti, which is over at my other process video narration system at my computer desk. But this little guy does a really good job of picking up my voice on my iPhone because I need to have my phone far away from me as I'm recording my face-to-face videos, because otherwise my face looks distorted and nobody wants that. And if I stand far enough away that my face isn't distorted, then the sound is really echoey and tinny and hollow and hard to hear. So this microphone plugs into my phone, and it came with this cord. What is this called, Scott? A lightning?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes with this lightning cord attachment. It just plugs into my iPhone and picks up my sound, my voice quite a bit better than if I were just using my phone alone. I don't have to use it when I'm doing videos like this because I'm holding my phone and it's obviously really close to my mouth. But when I'm recording face to face, I like to use that microphone for that. And the reason I don't just bring my Blue Yeti over is that my Blue Yeti is all set up with my Radius 2 shock mount and pop filter, and it would take a lot of effort to disconnect this every time. And it also has a different cord on it, so I would have had to have bought an extension cord anyways, to like an adapter cord. So this setup right here is my Blue Yeti mic, my Blue Pop filter, my Blue Radius 2 shock mount, and then this is a Rode, what's that called? A Rode boom arm. Boom arm, yeah. So that's my new video setup. I hope that you guys found that helpful. I will be doing a process video about how I make process videos. But this is my setup since you guys were asking. So thanks so much for joining me for this Scrapchat video, and have a really great scrappy week and a happy Mother's Day and a happy International Scrapbooking Day weekend.